Welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Janice Carney. And Janice is an attorney with her own law practice, Carney Elder Law in Saratoga, California. She's also the founder of a second company called the Ease Plan, which provides care management for seniors and others who need a professional patient advocate or care coordinator. She received her JD degree from the University of Santa Clara Law School in 1990. Janice has been practicing law independently for over 24 years. She's been a certified specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization since 1995. In 2005, Janice became the first certified elder law attorney in Santa Clara County through the National Association of Elder Law Attorneys, and became only the 8th attorney in California to be recognized as a specialist in elder law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization. In 2009, Janice became one of the first accredited attorneys by the Veterans Administration in that area. So today, Janice and I are going to be talking about the challenges in getting quality care for seniors. Janice, thanks for joining me today.
You're so welcome.
Okay. Well, how big of a problem is it to get quality care for a senior?
Well, when I think of that question, I think of not for the individual senior, but how big of a problem is it for our whole society?
Yeah.
And it's becoming huge. The number of baby boomers, of course, and I've heard that we don't want to be called baby boomers anymore.
Yeah.
I've even heard us called senior boomers.
Okay.
But you can just call them boomers.
Yeah.
But the number of boomers is going to double to about 88.5 million between now and 2050.
So you mean the boomers who are at the senior age level?
65 and over.
Yeah.
So the number of those, and the fastest growing segment of our population are individuals 85 and over. When I started my practice 24 years ago, it was rare to have a client who was over 90. That was, oh my goodness, they're
getting up there.
Really getting up there, and they are. But my landlord right now is 91 years old. He was on a stepladder the other day, changing lights and all kinds of things. He's always working on that. So people are living very healthily into their 90s now. Now, when people come to me and they're over 100, I'm thinking, okay, they're really getting up there.
Yeah.
But in 24 years, my whole attitude of who's really on the upper edge has moved at least 10 years. Yeah. Sort of a funny story. I had a family come to me, mom and there was at least 2 children. I can't remember exactly, but they wanted to talk about long-term care planning for mom. And I was thinking, okay, mom was 89.
Yes.
And so on the charts, her life expectancy was somewhere between 5 and 6 years. That's on the charts. And as soon as I said that, they said, oh, no, you don't understand. We expect mom to live to be 110. And they said her parents both lived to be over 108. Wow. So 110 is very realistic for her. And I'm thinking, okay, and 89, and we're going to start planning for 21 more years.
Yeah.
That's quite a difference in the planning that needs to go on. But at the same time that we're talking about this huge number of people moving into what I call the senior generation, we're also looking at the families being smaller. 1 in 5 boomers are what they call single agers. That means they're single and they have no children. So they are going to be moving into these senior years without this support network of younger generations. Maybe they have nieces and nephews, but they don't have children. There's fewer families, and the families did have children. The boomers generally had way fewer children than their parents did. So the families are smaller. And of course, there's always mortality, younger mortality. So maybe those kids, one of them has died already. The point is that we can't depend on that family support like we could before. Women are in the workforce now, so you can't depend that there'll be somebody, even if the family is there, they may not have the availability to come and take care of you. They've moved away. You know, they're not living where you are anymore. You're probably going to need to move where they are, at least one of them, and to have family support from there. And that means changing your whole social network and all. And the working, the age in which people work until is growing. I know people who are 82 and they're still working. My landlord, of course, he's retired he was a dentist, but he's still very much working as a landlord here. And so do individuals have the availability, even if they're in your same neighborhood and such, can they help? So you keep thinking, you know, if you get older, and of course, sometimes people do leave the workforce to care for the senior generation, but what is the economic impact of that on that younger generation family member and the whole unit of family? So it's becoming a huge problem. There's a lot of caregivers out there now. The home care industry has just rocketed as far as the number. We have something like 300 home care agencies in our county alone. It's amazing. So the number of facilities that are being built to help provide for seniors is growing. So, you know, I'll get into that a little bit more, but my point here is that it is a huge issue. It's changing. Care for seniors today and in the future is not going to look the same as it did in the past. And we need to figure it out. And this is a huge societal issue. And how's it going to be paid for? Oh my goodness, that is another.
So we'll do another program on that. Okay, so so there's a lot of issues here though that you've raised, and you know, it's just that. Well, one, you know, back when Social Security was created, you know, I don't think that people lived beyond usually about 5 years or so on the average after they started receiving Social Security. Now, and that was at age 65. Now we've had to raise the age for, you know, people my age to start receiving Social Security to age 70. That's one of the reasons why people are living longer, working longer.
That's true.
But people are living far beyond that age 65 threshold, as you pointed out.
If you get to 65 now, you're expected to get into your mid-80s.
Yeah. Well, they say, I was trying to remember, but I think they said, I don't remember the exact figure, but for a husband and wife that are age 65, the life expectancy for the couple, I think, is about 35 years. So right,
yeah, to 100. Yeah,
yes.
that one of them will reach 100.
One of them will probably make it to 100.
Right,
yeah.
And it's something like 50% or 40% one of them will make it to 100, which is startling.
Yeah, it's going to be a big change, and so quite interesting. Okay, well, I think we better move on a little bit. So I think a lot of people know, or at least it's the common thought is that most seniors would want to stay in their own home if they can.
Right.
And the question is that really realistic?
Well, one of my friends who's a real estate agent has done this program on should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
You know, should I stay in my home? And when we think of home, usually people are thinking about the home that they've had for the last 30, 40, 50 years,
Yes.
where they raised their family. It's called aging in place.
Yes.
And what I want to point out is that aging in place, the place where you age, might not be realistic to be in to age in place in that big home that you had for your family.
Yeah.
You know, it may be too big for you. It may have stairs that are going to be a problem later on for you. Now, of course, you can get these chairs that go up the stairs, and you can get different kind of devices, but for the most part, the stairs are a hazard. Things like throw rugs in your house are a hazard for seniors because you trip on them and you fall, and then you break your hips usually. But those are things. So aging in place in your home of 20, 30, 40, 50 years depends on the home, and it depends on your health. So, you know, of course, we'd like to think that we could stay at home and die in our own bed, but is that going to be safe, and is it going to be healthy for you to do it? Those are things you need to think about. I would like people to not be married to this idea that I'm never going to leave my home. I'm going to stay at home. Find a new home. Let's try to make it. So whether they're going to be safe in their home, you're going to look at several different factors. One of them will be how much care is that person going to need? Mm-hmm. Can it be provided there? Do they have enough money to pay for that home care? Interestingly, home care can be the most expensive location to get care.
Yes.
Because of changes in the law and just the numbers of hours that people might need.
Well, just think, I mean, there was a time when doctors made house calls. Okay? They don't do it anymore because it's not very time efficient,
Not only that, the doctor that, I think of the model of a doctor, Dr. Welby. Remember that show from the 70s? Where even if Dr. Welby wasn't going to treat what it was that was wrong with you, he was part of that. Mm-hmm. That's not the model anymore. You go to your primary care doctor, but then they refer you somewhere else, and they might find out what happened to you, maybe, but they're not generally going with you to see those specialists. If you go to an emergency room, you're going to see whoever's on call. And whoever's on call is going to change because the shift changes. And does one tell the other? Getting good patient medical care, I think you need to be it's changing. And you need to be or have a good patient advocate with you, whether it's a knowledgeable child or other family member or friend, or you might be paying for a care advocate to help you get the care. If you get the care that you need when you first get to the hospital in that emergency room, your likelihood of recovering back to the level that you were at is much higher. If in fact you go through the whole thing and you end up in a nursing home, which is a lot of times that's when I get called, they're already in the nursing home, we look at it and say, oh my goodness, if they had just had us earlier. And to help advocate. But the other issues about staying home, I mentioned the configuration of the home, like with stairs, the kind of flooring, the tripping hazard, whether the doors are big enough for wheelchairs if that's what you need, whether the senior can afford to pay for the home care, seniors' willingness to accept care at home. Sometimes I get into situations where the seniors are just in complete denial about their safety and their health and whether they can stay home. And staying home might not be the wisest things from a social and health situation because they might become isolated. But Nevertheless, there's a lot of talk about staying home. There's in technology, there are devices and equipment that now are coming online. Everyone's heard of the button you push and help by falling, and those really work. I've had a number of people fall and have to call on those. There are also GPS trackers out there now. If you've got a wandering person, maybe this help I can't have fallen, and the GPS trackers don't. They're not the same equipment. So you're going to need
you need two necklaces. Huh? Okay.
Something different. There's also in-home monitors now, and these monitors may have cameras, or they may be just motion sensors to tell if you've gotten up out of bed. And they're computerized. Are you sort of doing the stuff, moving around your house like you always do? And if something's wrong, they might be calling you, or they might be calling your child. There's medication reminder calls and different kinds of things now. So there are a lot of resources and devices coming online that may help extend the time that somebody could live independently, whether they live in their I'm going to call it their longtime home, or they move to a different home. That point is that they want to live independently. There's also support in a community that might be additional support. Everybody knows about the Meals on Wheels kinds of things, but there's a lot of other resources out there that most people don't know about, that if you can access someone in the senior services industry, you can get in to learn. I recommend that clients or seniors and their families find a good senior care manager, because those folks are a wealth of information about resources, doing assessments and care plans in the home, and identifying what are the challenges, and then with the challenges, identify what are the solutions, and to provide information. They also know facilities in the community and other housing situations, so that if someone does need to go to a facility, such as from the hospital after a fall, what facility ought they be going to. There's some massive gotchas in the Medicare rules about what Medicare will cover and how it's covered, how do you qualify for care under Medicare. So they're going to be a great resource for that family and senior. Most of us aren't in that industry. We're out in the high tech or CPA or a lawyer, and we have to give credit to the people who their career is based on getting all of this information. They've got valuable information and help. People just have to be willing to accept that now.
Okay. So we probably have about 8 minutes left, just to let you know where we are time-wise. All right. Well, I think we're going to move on. What if a senior can't stay at home? What are some other options?
So now again, if we're talking about that home that they've lived in, they can move to a different home, a more senior-friendly home in the configuration, a one-floor home, a one-story home. They can move into independent living communities. These are great. I think I almost look forward to moving to one of those at some future time. I call them a done-for-you community, because they provide food. You know, they cook the food, and they're chefs. They're amazing food there. They have travel opportunities. They've got exercise, and you can build a new social network there, because other people are coming there as well. And it's so it's a great option. But also just another independent home, maybe close to your family, that you could move to, that is senior friendly. If you need more care than you can get at home, and you've decided that you don't want to go the private home caregiver route, then you're looking for a facility that you can get some assisted living in. Some independent living communities allow assisted caregivers to come in, or they have a system of other kinds of assistance they can do. Usually the first level of assistance is medication assistance. But if you can't do that, then you can go to assisted living facility, which there's numbers of styles of them. There's the small ones that are what we call 6-bed board and care homes, and that's usually a static number of people, just a few people that manage it. So they come to really get to know you. Then you can go to the larger ones, maybe have 60 to 150 beds. And so it's a bigger kind of community, a lot more activities and stuff there. So that's appropriate for some people. And then there's a lot of people who need what we call a memory or dementia unit. And those can be a standalone community or one that is a wing of other assisted. If you need more care than assisted living, then you're looking at skilled nursing facilities. And that's the only level of facility or level of care that Medi-Cal will pay for. So sometimes folks are forced into a skilled nursing when they might have been able to be cared for in an assisted living. There's sort of a gray area between when you're appropriate for one versus the next one. So those are basically the options that you have. Of course, you can go and live with your son.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy.
If he'll have you, and he can do it.
Yeah. So, let's see, we've got about 5 minutes. So maybe you can just give a few highlights about some of the costs, and then we're going to do a whole other program about paying for this stuff. So.
Okay. Well, so home care, as we sort of intimated earlier, can be the most expensive. You're paying about $20 an hour for a home care giver. If you're going through an agency, it could be as much as $30. I know one agency that's $40, but they are high-end, type of thing. But getting a good quality home care agency, a full-service home care agency, is my recommendation. And you'll probably pay somewhere between $24 and $28 an hour for someone from that. But they're taking care of all of the employment issues. They really are an independent contractor for you, so you don't have to worry about any of those kinds of things. They're bonded, they're safe. But if you need someone 24 hours, California has passed some laws in the last year or two that make it you have to pay a caregiver for every hour they are in your home. Not just the hours that they're awake and attending to you, but if they sleep over in your home, you have to pay them for all those hours. You also have to pay overtime after 9 hours.
Right.
So you're paying time and a half or whatever the rules is about overtime for all those extra hours. And there's minimum wage rules.
Yes.
So how much are you going to have to pay them? You can't just pay them a set amount and say that that's for 24 hours. It's got to at least be enough to cover their minimum wage. So that can be one of my clients. And also, can you be home with just one caregiver, or do you need two? A lot of men especially need two caregivers to get them out of bed because they're large people, and most caregivers are smaller women. So how much is this going to cost? It can cost $20,000 easily to stay at home with caregivers. Going to an assisted living, you're really looking at somewhere between $3,000 and probably $7,000 or $8,000 per month for assisted living. Skilled nursing in California is just about $8,100 a month on average in California, but in our area, my survey is that the average is between 10 and 12, with some much higher. Wow. So it can be very, very expensive to provide for care.
Okay. Well, we only have a couple minutes left. Time goes awfully fast. We're going to do a separate program, though, about paying for care And so I think we'll leave those issues for then. So maybe you can just throw out a final thought as we wind this thing up.
So the issue of caring for seniors is, I think, becoming a much bigger issue. The whole society is starting to look at, there's a whole industry now about senior resources, or services for seniors. So that is something that people know that they need to find a way to tap into when they get to that point, or their parent gets to that point. See an elder law attorney, that's a good beginning. Or find a good geriatric care manager, or just care manager, as we call them, and get some help there.
Okay. So thank you.
I'd love to talk more about this.
Yeah, well, the time's gone. So Jan, thank you again so much for being my guest today. Folks, obviously this is a huge area that we're talking about. We're doing 3 programs related to them. We're still not going to cover everything. But anyway, we hope we've given you something to think about and some ideas of where to go. So we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.